Lieutenant Commander Jack Bailey stood at the window of the space station and watched Earth grow smaller in the distance. His reflection showed a man in his mid-30s with short brown hair and eyes that had seen more combat than most people could imagine. 20 years in the Navy SEALs had earned him a reputation as the calmest man in any crisis. Today, that reputation would be tested like never before. "Lieutenant Commander, they're ready for us," said a voice behind him. Jack turned to see Alan Wright, a nervous young diplomat from the State Department. The kid couldn't be more than 25 and looked like he might throw up at any moment. "Take a deep breath, Alan," Jack said. "Remember, we've been preparing for this day for months. But these are actual aliens, sir. The first aliens to ever make official contact with Earth." Jack nodded. "And they chose us, that means something." The two men walked down the corridor of Unity Station, the neutral meeting point orbiting Earth's moon. 6 months ago, the massive Zoraxian ship had appeared at the edge of the solar system. After initial communications, they requested this meeting. Jack had been selected not just for his combat experience, but for his unusual calm under pressure. "Remember the briefing," Jack said as they approached the meeting chamber. "The Zoraxians value strength and honor above all else. Show respect, but never weakness." The doors slid open to reveal the meeting room. 5 humans already sat at one side of a large table. Across from them were 6 of the most intimidating beings Jack had ever seen. The Zoraxians were massive, each standing between 7 and 8 feet tall. Their skin was covered in iridescent scales that shifted color with their movements. Most striking were their 4 powerful arms and the ridge of spines running from their heads down their backs. Their eyes were entirely black except for vertical pupils that glowed with an inner light. Ambassador Olivia Ramirez, head of the human delegation, stood as Jack and Alan entered. "Ah, the final members of our team have arrived. May I present? Lieutenant Commander Jack Bailey of our Navy Special Forces." The largest Zoraxian rose from his seat. His scales shifted to a deep purple with flecks of gold. "I am Commander Drizak of the Zoraxian Battle Fleet. We have studied your species for many cycles. Your warriors interest us greatly." Jack bowed his head slightly. "We are honored by your interest, Commander." As Jack took his seat, he noticed the other humans looking at him nervously. Everyone knew what was at stake. The Zoraxians had casually mentioned controlling 12 star systems. Some they had befriended. Others they had conquered when diplomatic relations failed. For hours, the two sides discussed trade, technology sharing, and territory boundaries. The Zoraxians were direct but fair in their offers. As the meeting progressed, Jack noticed Drizak watching him with particular interest. During a break, Ambassador Ramirez pulled Jack aside. "They seem focused on you. Our analysts think they're more interested in our military capabilities than our resources." Jack nodded. "They're warriors first. They respect strength more than words." "Just be careful," she warned. "The xenobiologists say they have 3 times our strength and can move faster than seems possible for their size." When they returned to the meeting, Drizak stood and addressed the room. "It is Zoraxian custom to demonstrate combat techniques during diplomatic meetings. It helps us understand new species better." His black eyes fixed on Jack. "Would our human warrior join me in a simple demonstration?" The room went silent. Jack felt everyone's eyes on him. The other humans looked terrified. "What kind of demonstration did you have in mind?" Jack asked calmly. Drizak's mouth formed what might have been a smile, revealing rows of sharp teeth. "Nothing complex, just a sharing of basic techniques between warriors. It is tradition among civilized species." Jack glanced at Ambassador Ramirez, who gave him a tiny nervous nod. "I would be honored to learn more about Zoraxian combat traditions," Jack said, "though perhaps after we finish the diplomatic discussions." Something flickered across Drizak's alien face, perhaps surprise or displeasure. The scales around his neck briefly flashed red before returning to purple. "Of course," Drizak said. "Diplomacy first, combat demonstrations after, as is proper." But Jack noticed how the other Zoraxians exchanged glances. Something about his response had changed the atmosphere in the room. The real challenge, he sensed, was just beginning. The meeting continued for another 3 hours. Jack watched as Ambassador Ramirez skillfully navigated the complex negotiations. The Zoraxians were direct but not unreasonable. They offered to share some of their technology in exchange for access to Earth's cultural archives and natural resources. By human standards, it seemed like a fair deal. During a short break, Dr. Susan Hayes, the team's xenobiologist, approached Jack with a worried expression. "I've been watching their body language," she whispered. "When you declined the combat demonstration, Commander Drizak's scales changed color. That's a sign of anger or offense in their species." Jack frowned. "I just postponed it. I didn't refuse. In Ike, their culture, that might be the same thing," Susan explained. "From what we've learned, combat exchanges are part of their formal greeting protocol. By suggesting business first, you may have accidentally insulted them." Jack looked across the room where Drizak stood with his warriors. The alien commander kept glancing in his direction. "What should I do?" Jack asked. "After the meeting, approach him and offer to participate in their combat demonstration. Make it clear it was a misunderstanding about protocol, not fear." When the talks resumed, Jack noticed a subtle change in the Zoraxians' behavior. They were less forthcoming, more guarded in their responses. The easy flow of the earlier discussions had disappeared. Ambassador Ramirez kept shooting concerned glances at her team. As the meeting ended for the day, Jack made his way toward Commander Drizak. Before he could reach him, one of the junior Zoraxians blocked his path. "Commander Drizak requests your presence in Training Room 3 in 1 hour," the alien said. His voice was deep and rumbling, like stones rolling down a mountain. "For cultural exchange." Jack nodded. "I'll be there." Back in his quarters, Jack changed into his exercise clothes, a simple black t-shirt and navy blue workout pants. He spent 20 minutes stretching and preparing mentally. Susan had sent him what little information they had on Zoraxian physiology and fighting styles. "Their 4 arms give them advantages in grappling," she had written. "Their center of gravity is higher than humans. They value technique over brute strength despite their natural power." Jack arrived at the training room 5 minutes early. It was a large space with padded flooring. Various exercise equipment lined the walls, some recognizably human, others clearly designed for Zoraxian bodies. Commander Drizak entered with 2 other Zoraxians. He had changed from his formal attire into what appeared to be some kind of training uniform, a sleeveless garment that revealed his muscular forearms. "Lieutenant Commander Bailey," Drizak said, his scales shifting to a deep blue. "I am pleased you have come. Many species are hesitant to engage in combat exchange with Zoraxians." "We have similar traditions on Earth," Jack said carefully. "I apologize if my earlier response seemed reluctant. I was simply following what I understood to be diplomatic protocol." Drizak made a gesture with his upper right hand that Jack couldn't interpret. "Protocol varies between worlds. Today we learn from each other as warriors." The other 2 Zoraxians moved to the edges of the room as Drizak stepped onto the training mat. He gestured for Jack to join him. "We will begin with basic movement patterns," Drizak said, then progressed to simple combat exchanges. For the next 40 minutes they moved through various fighting stances. Jack demonstrated some basic SEAL hand-to-hand combat techniques, while Drizak showed Zoraxian forms. Despite the alien's intimidating appearance, there was a fluid grace to his movements. "Your species is physically weaker than most we encounter," Drizak observed as they completed a sequence. "Yet your techniques are efficient, designed to overcome strength disadvantages." "That's correct," Jack said. "We adapt." Drizak's scales rippled with what might have been appreciation. "Now we will demonstrate a formal combat greeting. This is customary before diplomatic relations are fully established." Jack tensed slightly. "What does this greeting involve?" "A simple exchange of strikes and blocks," Drizak said. "Nothing that would cause serious injury." Jack nodded cautiously. "I'm ready." As they faced each other on the mat, Jack couldn't help but notice how the other Zoraxians were watching with unusual intensity. Drizak's scales had shifted to a bright orange color that Jack hadn't seen before. He had a feeling the simple exchange was about to become something more complicated. Jack and Drizak circled each other on the training mat. The Zoraxian moved with surprising speed for his size, his forearms held in a balanced fighting stance. Jack kept his distance, studying his opponent's movements. In Zoraxian tradition, the higher-ranked warrior initiates contact, Drizak explained. His scales shifted to a bright yellow as he spoke. I will strike. You will block and return. This establishes mutual respect. Jack nodded, keeping his expression neutral. I understand. Drizak lunged forward with his upper right arm, throwing a punch that seemed deliberately slow. Jack blocked it easily and responded with a quick jab that stopped just short of the alien's chest. The Zoraxian's eyes narrowed. Again, but with proper force. We are not children practicing. This time, when Drizak struck, the blow carried real power. Jack deflected it rather than blocking directly, using the alien's momentum to guide. The punch passed him. He countered with a stronger strike of his own, making solid contact with Drizak's shoulder. The alien's scales flashed orange briefly. Better. They continued this exchange for several minutes. Jack noticed the strikes were getting progressively harder. What had started as a demonstration was becoming a real sparring match. Sweat dripped down his back as he worked to counter the increasingly powerful blows from all four of Drizak's arms. After a particularly hard exchange, Drizak stopped and stepped back. You have skill, human. More than I expected from your size. Thank you, Jack said, catching his breath. Your fighting style is impressive, very different from ours. Tomorrow we will continue with the formal diplomatic meetings, Drizak said. But first, one final tradition. Before Jack could ask what he meant, the training room door opened and Ambassador Ramirez entered with two of her staff members. Lieutenant Commander Bailey, she called out. We need you for a briefing before tomorrow's session. Jack turned to Drizak. It seems we'll have to continue another time. The alien commander's scales suddenly shifted to a deep red. The exchange is not complete. It would be disrespectful to leave now. Ambassador Ramirez approached them, looking concerned. Is there a problem? No problem, Jack said quickly. Just finishing up a cultural exchange. The exchange is not finished, Drizak insisted. His voice had dropped to a lower register. The final ritual must be completed. Ramirez looked between them. Perhaps we could schedule time tomorrow before the meeting? Drizak's four hands clenched into fists. The other Zoraxians in the room moved closer, their postures suddenly tense. I'm sure we can spare a few more minutes, Jack said to Ramirez, sensing the shift in mood. What does this final ritual involve, Commander? Instead of answering, Drizak turned and walked toward the door. Follow me, Lieutenant Commander. This should be done in private. Jack glanced at Ramirez, who gave a small nod. Don't worry, he said quietly. I'll be right back. He followed Drizak into the corridor outside the training room. The hallway was empty except for two human security officers at the far end. Drizak stopped and turned to face Jack. You fought well for a human, the alien said. But you have violated our customs twice now. First by delaying the combat exchange, then by attempting to leave before it was complete. Jack kept his voice calm. That wasn't my intention. If I've offended you, I apologize. Words mean little. Actions define intent. Drizak's scales were now a deep crimson. You must understand what it means to disrespect a Zoraxian warrior. I meant no disrespect. Among my people, when a warrior acts as you have, there is a price. Drizak's voice was eerily quiet. A reminder of proper respect. Jack saw the movement coming but didn't react in time. Drizak's upper right hand swung in a wide arc, connecting with Jack's face in a powerful slap that echoed through the corridor. The force of it sent Jack stumbling backward against the wall. The human security officers reached for their weapons, but Jack raised his hand to stop them. His cheek burned from the impact, and he could taste blood where his teeth had cut the inside of his mouth. Drizak stood tall, all four arms now at his sides. Now you understand. Tomorrow we will speak as equals. Jack straightened up slowly, his eyes never leaving the alien's face. His mind was suddenly very clear, years of SEAL training taking over. He had exactly 3 seconds to decide how to respond. 1 second passed. Jack's mind raced through options. The slap had been powerful enough to make his vision blur momentarily. The security officers were too far away to help if things escalated. Ambassador Ramirez and her staff stood frozen in the doorway of the training room, watching in horror. 2 seconds passed. Jack recalled what Susan had told him about Zoraxian physiology. Their great strength came with vulnerabilities, nerve clusters under their lower arms, a higher center of gravity, and scales that, while tough, had sensitive spots where they overlapped. 3 seconds passed. Jack made his decision. He stumbled slightly, making it appear as if the slap had dazed him more than it actually had. Drizak's posture relaxed slightly, his scales shifting from angry red to a more satisfied orange. It was exactly what Jack needed. In one fluid motion, Jack lunged forward. His right hand struck precisely at the nerve cluster beneath Drizak's lower right arm, a spot Susan had highlighted in her notes. The effect was immediate. The alien's arm went limp, his expression changing from smug satisfaction to shock. Before Drizak could recover, Jack executed a perfect leg sweep, not at the legs where a human's would be, but higher, targeting the alien's unusual center of gravity. The massive Zoraxian, top-heavy and with one arm temporarily useless, crashed to the floor with a thunderous impact that shook the corridor. Jack moved with practiced efficiency, turning the fall into a submission hold. He twisted Drizak's upper, left arm behind his back while applying pressure to a sensitive spot where the neck scales met the shoulder, another weakness noted in Susan's report. The entire sequence took less than 3 seconds. "What is happening?" Drizak growled, his voice a mixture of pain and disbelief. "How did you—" "Now we understand each other," Jack said calmly, maintaining the hold without applying enough pressure to cause serious injury. "On Earth, we respond to unprovoked attacks, but we also know when to stop." The corridor had suddenly filled with both humans and Zoraxians. The aliens stood frozen, clearly stunned at the sight of their commander pinned by a physically smaller human. The two Zoraxians who had been in the training room looked at each other, their scales shifting through various colors in rapid succession. Ambassador Ramirez stepped forward. "Lieutenant Commander Bailey, release him immediately." Jack held the position for one more second, then smoothly released his hold and stood up. He extended a hand to help Drizak rise, but the Zoraxian ignored it and climbed to his feet without assistance. The alien commander stood silently, rubbing his temporarily paralyzed arm as feeling slowly returned to it. His scales had turned a deep blue that no one had seen before. The other Zoraxians kept their distance, seemingly unsure how to react. "Commander Drizak," Ramirez began, her voice tense with diplomatic concern. "Please accept our deepest—" "How did you know?" Drizak interrupted, his eyes fixed on Jack. "About the nerve point, about our center balance?" Jack met his gaze steadily. "We studied your physiology just as you studied ours. It's what good warriors do, learn about potential opponents." One of the other Zoraxians stepped forward. "Commander, by our law, the human has—" "I know our laws," Drizak snapped. He continued staring at Jack, his expression unreadable to human eyes. Finally, he spoke again. "In all my cycles of combat, no one has ever countered the honor strike so effectively." The corridor remained silent as everyone waited for what would happen next. Jack noticed one of the Zoraxians was holding what appeared to be a recording device. The entire incident had been captured. "Ambassador Ramirez," Drizak said finally, turning to face her. "Your warrior has displayed unexpected skill. This changes things." "Changes things?" Ramirez asked cautiously. "In what way?" Drizak's scale shifted to a color they hadn't seen before, a deep purple with flecks of silver. "The diplomatic protocols must be reconsidered. Your species is not what we expected." He turned back to Jack. "You and I will speak again, Lieutenant. Commander, before the meetings resume." Without another word, Drizak strode down the corridor, the other Zoraxians falling in behind him. As they disappeared around a corner, Ambassador Ramirez grabbed Jack's arm. "What the hell just happened?" she whispered, Did you just attack an alien commander? No, Jack said, touching his still stinging cheek. I just responded to one, and I think I just earned his respect. The human delegation gathered in their conference room immediately after the incident. Ambassador Ramirez paced back and forth while security officers posted outside the door kept watch. Jack sat quietly as Dr. Susan Hayes examined his face. You're lucky, she said, applying a cold pack to his cheek. From what we know about Zoraxian strength, that slap could have broken your jaw. He was holding back, Jack said. It was meant to humiliate, not injure. Alan Wright, the young diplomat, couldn't stop staring at Jack. You took down an alien twice your size in 3 seconds. That's going to have consequences. Ambassador Ramirez stopped pacing. Consequences is right. We've been in contact with Earth. The President and Joint Chiefs are furious. They think you might have ruined our first alien treaty. With respect, Ambassador, Jack said. I don't think I did. Explain, she demanded. Drizak's reaction wasn't anger. It was surprise, then something else. Jack winced as he touched his swollen cheek. The Zoraxians respect strength and skill. I think I just gave him both. The room's communication screen lit up with an incoming message. One of Drizak's subordinates appeared on screen, scales a formal blue-gray. The High Council requests an immediate explanation for the human warrior's attack on Commander Drizak, the alien stated. The Council has convened an emergency session to discuss this serious breach of diplomatic protocol. Ramirez stepped forward. There has been a misunderstanding. Commander Drizak struck Lieutenant Commander Bailey first. His response was defensive. The ow. Zoraxian's scales flickered briefly. The honor strike is a ceremonial gesture, not an attack. The human's response was excessive and unexpected. Perhaps, Jack said, standing up, we should let Commander Drizak speak for himself. The alien on screen stared at Jack for a long moment. Commander Drizak is currently unavailable. He is reviewing the security footage of the incident with the Warrior Council. After the call ended, Ramirez turned to Jack with a worried expression. This could go very badly. We need to prepare for the possibility that the Zoraxians will break off diplomatic relations. I don't think they will, Susan said unexpectedly. Everyone turned to look at her. The alien's scales changed color when Jack suggested speaking to Drizak directly. That pattern indicates uncertainty or confusion. Something unexpected is happening on their side. Jack nodded. They're not acting like an offended party preparing for conflict. They're stalling. Hours passed with no further communication from the Zoraxians. The human team used the time to review everything they knew about Zoraxian culture and combat traditions. Susan pulled up files on her tablet and shared them with the group. According to our limited information, she explained, Zoraxians have a complex honor system built around combat prowess. They've conquered some worlds, but formed alliances with others based largely on their assessment of each species' warrior potential. So they're judging us, Alan said. They're always judging, Susan replied. Every interaction is a test. Near midnight station time, their door chime sounded. 2 Zoraxian guards entered, followed by a smaller alien in elaborate robes, clearly some kind of official or diplomat. I am Kelzar, diplomatic advisor to the High Council, the new alien announced. His scales were a calm blue with formal gold patterns. I have been sent to inform you of a situation. Ambassador Ramirez straightened. What situation? The security footage of the encounter between Commander Drizak and your warrior has been transmitted to the Zoraxian fleet. Kelzar's voice carried a note of concern. It was meant only for the Council's review, but someone leaked the recording. And? Ramirez prompted. And now every warrior in the fleet has seen a human defeat a Zoraxian commander in combat. Kelzar's scales rippled with what might have been embarrassment. This has created complications. Jack stepped forward. What kind of complications? The alien turned to face him directly. Our warriors are demanding to know more about human combat techniques. Many are questioning why we were not informed of your species' fighting capabilities. And Commander Drizak. Yes? Jack asked when Kelzar hesitated. Commander Drizak has invoked the challenge of Valorian. Kelzar's scales darkened to a deep blue. It is an ancient tradition that has not been used in 7 generations. Ambassador Ramirez frowned. What exactly is this challenge? A formal combat trial, Kelzar answered. One that will determine the future relationship between our peoples. Ambassador Ramirez called an emergency meeting with her team. They gathered around the table in their conference room, faces tense with concern. Kelzar had left after explaining the basics of the challenge of Valorian, promising to return with more details. This is a disaster, Ramirez said, rubbing her temples. We came here to establish peaceful relations, not enter some alien combat tournament. Jack sat quietly, his mind already analyzing the situation from multiple angles. What exactly did Kelzar say about this challenge? Susan checked her notes. The challenge of Valorian is a formal combat trial between representatives of 2 species. According to Zoraxian tradition, the outcome determines the nature of their relationship with another civilization. And if we refuse, Alan asked, then Earth will be declared unworthy of relations with the Zoraxian Confederation, Susan said. Effectively, we would be shunned by them, and possibly their 12 allied systems. The room fell silent as they considered the implications. Humanity had only recently developed faster-than-light travel. Being cut off from potential allies this early in their venture into space could be devastating. And if we accept but lose? Ramirez asked. Susan hesitated. Kelzar wasn't entirely clear, but he mentioned something about protectorate status. I believe that means Earth would become subordinate to the Zoraxian Confederation. That's not an option, Jack said firmly. Earth will never accept alien rule. The door chime sounded and Kelzar entered, accompanied by 2 Zoraxian guards. His scales were now a formal purple with gold patterns. The High Council has finalized the terms of the challenge, he announced. As the challenged party, Commander Drizak has the right to select the conditions. Ramirez gestured for him to continue. The challenge will take place in 12 Earth hours aboard our flagship, Kelzar said. It will be a full combat trial, with minimal protective equipment allowed. Victory is achieved when one combatant yields, or is rendered unable to continue. And the stakes? Jack asked directly. Kelzar's scales flickered slightly. If the human warrior is defeated, Earth will be granted protected status within the Confederation, under Zoraxian guidance. You mean control, Ramirez said sharply. If the human warrior is victorious, Kelzar continued, ignoring her comment, Earth will be recognized as a sovereign equal, worthy of full diplomatic relations. And if we refuse the challenge? Ramirez asked. Then our ships will depart your system immediately, Kelzar said. No treaty, no relations, no technology exchange, and word will spread to other galactic powers that humans lack the courage to stand by their actions. After Kelzar left, the room erupted in heated discussion. Ramirez immediately contacted Earth to relay the situation. The response was divided. Military leaders wanted to accept the challenge while civilian authorities feared the consequences of either outcome. It should be my decision, Jack said quietly after listening to the arguments. I created this situation. I should resolve it. It's not that simple, Ramirez replied. This isn't just about you. It's about the future of Earth. Exactly, Jack said. And right now, I'm the only one who can secure a good future for Earth. Susan approached with her tablet. While they've been debating, I've been studying everything. We have on Zoraxian combat techniques. Their style relies heavily on their forearms and strength advantage, but they have weaknesses. She showed Jack detailed anatomical diagrams. Their nerve clusters are vulnerable here, here, and here. Their joints don't rotate the same way ours do, which limits certain movements. And their scales, while tough, have sensitivity at these overlap points. Jack studied the information carefully. I'll need every advantage I can get. You're really going to do this? Alan asked, his voice shaking slightly. Fight an alien gladiator match to determine Earth's future? Jack looked up from the tablet. Do you see another option? No one answered. Then yes, Jack said. I'm going to do this, but I'll need one thing. Name it, Ramirez said. Time. I need 24 hours to prepare, not 12. He turned to Susan. Can you make that request through the proper channels? Cite human physiological recovery needs or whatever sounds official. Susan nodded. I'll try. And I need a secure line to Earth, Jack added. There's someone I need to talk to. Ramirez raised an eyebrow. Who? My old SEAL team commander, Jack said. If I'm going to fight an 8-foot alien with 4 arms, I need a strategy, and no one knows more about fighting overwhelming opponents than Captain Frank Harris. Jack stood in the preparation chamber aboard the Zoraxian flagship. The room was large and dimly lit with strange blue lights that made shadows dance on the walls. Susan Hayes had stayed with him until the last moment, reviewing Zoraxian weak points and fighting techniques. Remember what Captain Harris told you, she said before leaving. Use their expectations against them. Now alone, Jack stretched his muscles carefully. The Zoraxians had granted his request for additional preparation time, extending the deadline to 24 hours. He had used every minute wisely. After speaking with Captain Harris, he had practiced specific moves designed to counter Zoraxian fighting styles. He had studied recordings of their combat demonstrations, looking for patterns and weaknesses. The door slid open, and Kelzar entered. It is time, Lieutenant Commander. The combat arena awaits. Jack nodded and followed the alien through a series of corridors. With each step, the distant sound of voices grew louder. They finally reached a massive door that slid open to reveal a sight Jack would never forget. The arena was a circular pit surrounded by rising tiers of seats. Hundreds of Zoraxians filled those seats, their scales shifting in waves of color as they spoke among themselves. On the opposite side of the arena, a small section held the human delegation. Ambassador Ramirez and her team looked tiny and vulnerable among the towering aliens. The rules are simple, Kelzar said as they reached the edge of the pit. Combat continues until one yields or cannot continue. No weapons are permitted. Death is not required but is considered an acceptable outcome. Understood, Jack said quietly. Kelzar studied him for a moment. Many of our warriors believe you will not even last 1 minute against Commander Drizak. You surprised him once. He will not underestimate you again. Jack met the alien's gaze. Good. I want his best. A deep horn sounded, and the crowd fell silent. From the opposite side of the arena, a door opened, and Commander Drizak stepped forward. He wore minimal protective padding over his chest and lower body, leaving his 4 powerful arms completely bare. His scales glowed a fierce red in the arena lights. Jack descended the steps into the combat pit. He wore only lightweight exercise pants and a thin protective vest. The Zoraxians murmured at his lack of armor, scales shifting in what might have been surprise. The 2 combatants approached the center of the arena. Drizak towered over Jack, nearly twice his size and weight. You have courage, human, Drizak said, his voice just loud enough for Jack to hear. It will not be enough. We'll see, Jack replied calmly. A Zoraxian official stepped between them, speaking in a formal tone. The challenge of Valorian now begins. May the strongest warrior prevail. He stepped back, and Drizak immediately launched forward, all 4, arms moving in a coordinated attack pattern. Jack dodged sideways, letting the alien's momentum carry him past. The crowd roared at this first exchange. What followed was unlike any combat the Zoraxians had ever witnessed. Jack did not attempt to match Drizak's strength. Instead, he moved constantly, never staying in one place long enough for the alien to land a solid blow. When Drizak's attacks came too close, Jack redirected them rather than blocking directly. Minutes passed and Drizak's movements became more aggressive. Frustration showed in his posture, and the increasingly erratic patterns of his scales. Jack had yet to launch a serious attack of his own, focusing entirely on defense and positioning. Fight properly, Drizak growled after another failed attack. Sequence, I am, Jack replied, circling carefully. Just not the way you expected. The alien charged again, using his upper arms to grab for Jack while striking with his lower ones. Jack ducked under the grab and finally launched his first counterattack, a precise strike to a nerve cluster under Drizak's lower left arm. The limb temporarily went numb, throwing the alien off balance. The crowd fell silent at this sudden turn. Jack pressed his advantage, moving inside Drizak's reach to deliver 2 more precise strikes to vulnerable points. The alien commander staggered back, clearly surprised by the effectiveness of these seemingly minor blows. For the first time, doubt flickered across Drizak's face. His breathing had become labored while Jack remained composed and focused. The human's strategy was becoming clear. He was not trying to defeat Drizak with brute force, but was systematically wearing him down, targeting weaknesses and conserving energy. "Interesting approach," Drizak said between heavy breaths. "But a true warrior faces his opponent directly." Jack smiled slightly. "I am facing you directly, I'm just doing it my way." With that, he moved forward again, ready to continue the most important fight of his life, and possibly of humanity's future. The combat had continued for nearly 30 minutes. Sweat poured down Jack's face as he circled Drizak cautiously. Both fighters showed signs of fatigue and injury. Jack's right eye was swollen where a glancing blow had caught him, and he favored his left leg slightly. Drizak's scales had dulled from their bright red to a muted orange, and 2 of his forearms moved with noticeable stiffness. The crowd watched in stunned silence. What they had expected to be a quick demonstration of Ziraxian superiority had turned into a true contest. The human delegation sat forward in their seats, barely breathing as they watched Jack continue to hold his own against the much larger opponent. Drizak lunged forward with renewed determination, using his upper arms to grab while striking with his lower ones. It was a move Jack had seen several times now. This time, instead of dodging, he stepped directly into the attack. The crowd gasped at what seemed like a fatal mistake, but Jack had timed his move perfectly. He slipped between Drizak's grasping upper arms and delivered a precise strike to a nerve cluster in the alien's chest, a vulnerable point Susan had identified in her research. Drizak faltered, his rhythm broken. In that brief moment of advantage, Jack executed the combination he and Captain Harris had developed, a series of strikes targeting the joints and nerve points unique to Ziraxian physiology. Each blow was calculated, using Drizak's own momentum and weight against him. The alien commander stumbled backward, clearly stunned by the sudden assault. Jack pressed forward, maintaining the pressure. With a final sweeping motion, he knocked Drizak's legs from under him. The massive alien crashed to the floor of the arena with an impact that seemed to shake the entire room. Jack immediately moved to secure a submission hold similar to the one he had used in their first encounter. Drizak struggled briefly, then went still as Jack applied pressure to a sensitive nerve point where neck scales met shoulder. "Yield," Jack said quietly, maintaining the hold. The arena was completely silent now. No Ziraxian had expected to see their commander in this position. For several long seconds, Drizak did not respond. Then, to everyone's surprise, he spoke in a clear, loud voice that carried throughout the arena. "I yield." Jack immediately released his hold and stepped back. Following Captain Harris's advice, he extended a hand to the fallen alien, a gesture that was not part of Ziraxian combat tradition. Drizak stared at the offered hand for a moment, confusion evident in his expression. Then, slowly, he reached up and grasped Jack's forearm. Jack helped pull the much heavier alien to his feet. The arena remained silent as the 2 warriors stood facing each other. Then, unexpectedly, Drizak raised all 4 of his arms. "The human warrior is victorious," he announced. "The challenge of Valorian is complete." A murmur ran through the crowd. Kelzar approached from the edge of the arena, his scales shifting in patterns of blue and gold. "According to our most ancient traditions," Kelzar declared, "Earth has proven itself worthy, not merely as an ally, but as an equal." Ambassador Ramirez rushed down to the arena floor, followed by Susan and Alan. Relief showed clearly on their faces. "It's over," Ramirez said, her voice breaking slightly. "You did it, Jack." Drizak stepped forward. His scales had shifted to a color they had never seen before, A deep blue with gold highlights similar to Kelzar's formal patterns. Lieutenant Commander Bailey, he said formally. You have fought with honor and skill few species have ever shown against a Zoraxian warrior. Jack nodded respectfully. You fought well too, Commander. In our history, Drizak continued, we have conquered worlds and made allies, but rarely have we found a species worthy of true respect. He placed one of his upper hands on Jack's shoulder. Humans are different. You are physically weaker than us, yet you adapt and overcome. This is a quality the Confederation values above all else. In the days that followed, a new treaty was formed between Earth and the Zoraxian Confederation. Humans would join the galactic community not as subjects or protected species, but as full and equal partners. And throughout the 12 star systems of the Confederation, the story spread of a human warrior who was slapped by a Zoraxian commander, and what happened 3 seconds later.